guess we'll fire this off. The first Vodcast. First might be the last. Who knows? This is
we got a long ass drive.
Yeah, I know. This is something new for me, and I don't think you've ever done a Vodcast or a podcast before, have you?
I've never done a podcast. I mean, I've always been like either a live streamer or edited video.
And well, it seems like the podcast deal is kind of the way things are going these days. There's a lot of podcasts out there.
Everybody's got their own podcast.
A lot of live feeds, so everyone's doing it. So
it's hot now, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. People are listening to it, so you might as well tap into the niche if you enjoy it.
Definitely works. I know I spend a lot of time listening to them now, more so when I'm on the road because I'm driving around for work all the time. So I've always got some kind of live stream on, right? Or well, pre-recorded. Like I'll listen to the table because sometimes it's tough to, you know, sit down on a Wednesday night and listen to the table for 5-6 hours, right?
Yeah, they're long. Yeah.
That's
I'll jump in for like a good 45 minutes, and I'm like, okay, I gotta go.
Yeah, you gotta get to bed and stuff. But that's nice for me because I get some long trips between calls when I'm out on work. So just toss it on then. Or you got Mike with the shit show. That's another one that
I think Mike's got a good show there. He's got his own little spin on it. Like when I'm watching Mike's shit show, it doesn't feel like a normal podcast. It feels like, I don't want to say, I don't know if it's more honest, but like he's sitting in this neutral ground and he's giving everybody a fair say. Like you can say your piece, you can say your piece, and he's not going to discriminate against anybody's opinions. Like I really like the way he handles that. Like if, you know,
he's given a platform for everyone.
He's given a platform for everyone. You want to say your piece, you go on there, you be real, you want to talk your crap, you know, you get it out. And he's just there, you know, kind of directing traffic, and it works. You know, I really enjoy Sinister's podcast. I think he's going to do well with that. It'll take some time to grow, obviously. YouTube's a grind, but if he sticks with it, he'll get there.
Yeah, and allowing anyone to come on that wants to talk shit, or
you know what I mean.
That helps too, right? Giving the ability to anyone to hop on, right, regardless of who you are, right? So that's pretty sick. But yeah, I guess we're about 9 hours and 20 minutes away from home. So, and we're
World Cup, baby.
World Cup.
Worth it. Oh,
so
my God,
we actually planned on doing this on the way down to World Cup, but unfortunately at 4 a.m. on Thursday morning, I woke up and was puking my face off. I had some bad shawarma. I wasn't gonna call it the place, but Shawarma G in Guelph. Fuck you.
Ain't going there, man.
Oh man, it was always good, and then I don't know, they definitely lost my business now.
They didn't clean the machines this week or something.
Oh, I almost missed out on World Cup. Yeah, I woke up at 4 o'clock and I'm like, I feel like I'm gonna puke, and I grabbed some gravel, and within minutes it was not good. And we were leaving. What time did we leave? I think it was 8.
Yeah, you were at my house at 8.
Yeah. So I puked, feel better, and back to it again. And then I remember I was just walking out the door, and I literally ran back in, and it was the just biggest of them all. And I'm like, oh my! I'm like, I'm done. I was honestly, Ben, sitting there, and I'm like, I might have to call this. I'm like, I can't. I'm like, I'm gonna regret this if I call this, because I know I'm gonna feel better later. And I'm like, well, maybe I'll just tell him to get going, and I'll meet him there, and you know, take a couple hours to pull it together. But I'm like, you know what? I'm like, I'm gonna push through this. I gotta push through this, and I'm glad I did. Cause
was it worth it?
Oh, it was absolutely worth it. I know it was a difficult drive down, push through, but that was hell. Like I'm usually really good in a vehicle, especially with the truck, and that's why I made the call to take the truck over your car, because it's
way more comfortable in this thing than the Mustang, man.
Oh yeah, pretty comfortable ride. And you know, I've driven this to Dig or Die last year, and it was like I stopped once for fuel and got out of the truck, felt like $1 million, but I think I was just so tense on the way down because I was just trying to keep it together, that my back and legs, and then we ran into all that traffic, and that was an interesting route too.
Yeah, as soon as fucking Pennsylvania, that road was insane. If you have a motorcycle and you like scraping knees, go to Pennsylvania. Like that, I don't know what that road was, but that was beautiful.
I don't know. We could probably find it. If you just go, I guess on the Google Maps, you just go on to like Stone River Mall in Guelph and just poke in the address for racetrack, Maryland racetrack, it'll show you it's the quickest, most fuel efficient route, but man, it's a lot of stopping and turning.
It's dangerous. Some of those corners were fucking dead.
I know.
Like on the cliffs, that were up there. And the good old boys that were racing through those things, we were trying to keep up. We couldn't keep up because they knew the roads, obviously. But
we had a couple dudes in an F-150, probably I'd say like mid 2000s.
It was normal.
And those guys were clipping, and I was getting them through the corners. I was pushing my luck a bit, I won't lie, but
we were like 8 hours from home. We were fucking sending it in these mountain roads.
In an F-150, up and downhill, blind corners, and hairpins, and that was jokes. And then that one when we went over the crest up the top, and I think I was doing like probably 70 miles an hour and 55, and I had no idea what was over the crest.
That was a clencher. It's like, fuck. If you were on a bike going too fast, you would have right over that guardrail. Man.
Actually, that's a lie. I did see on the GPS that there was a slight bend to the left. It wasn't a sharp one, so I did have a bit of an idea. But if there was anything that was on the other side of that crest, we would have been in trouble.
You were doing all that, feeling like shit and everything.
I know. Pushing through, and then the phone was blowing up because then we had the hotel calling Ben.
Oh, they were trying to. I guess, it's World Cup weekend, so everybody's trying to find accommodations, and they kept calling me. They're like, "Are you coming? Are you coming? We need to know now." And I'm like, "I told you I was coming yesterday." And this guy, what the hell, man? Get in your lane, asshole. Fuck. And the hotel kept calling me. They're like, "Hey, like, you coming? Where are you? Are you gonna be an hour? Are you gonna be 2 hours?" I'm like, "Guys, we're stuck in traffic. It's DC rush hour traffic, like Washington DC. Like, we're getting there when we get there. Like, and this total idiot working the counter, right? Like, the hotel was fine. There was nothing wrong. There's no problems there. It was clean, whatever. But like, the guys at the counter were total idiots. Like, obviously people were knocking on their door looking for accommodations, right? So,
that was nuts, and I was angry, like super angry, and I'm like, if we get to this hotel and they tell us our room's gone, like I'm gonna burn this fucker to the ground, like, like I am not in the mood for those games.
I had reserved the hotel way back in September when I got when I was in Naperville Dragway, I got my acceptance to as official media for World Cup. So I booked it like the next day. I'm like, okay, hotel, boom, booked, done. And I think I got the last two bed room.
Because it'd be single kings and sort of deal.
So
I guess we'll talk about that too. It's kind of how that came up. I know World Cup import versus domestic, I guess, has been around for 27 years because they mentioned that multiple times while we were there.
I had no idea it was that long.
No, I've only been familiar with World Cup, I'd say probably 4 years or so. And honestly, the reason I'm familiar with it is from Cletus's channel. And I think this might probably be his third or fourth year being at World Cup that I can remember anyways. But I don't know how long you've been familiar with that event, but
I think 2016 I started watching World Cup.
Oh, okay, it's about 8 years.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't diehard into it back then because I didn't really get back into the YouTube until 2018. Is when I really said, okay, I'm done having kids. I got married. I took my break. Because I was doing GuelphRacing right up to 2012, and then 2012 to 2018, there's a 6-year gap in my channel between uploads, and I was, I decided just to chill out from YouTube. It wasn't a business or anything back then. I wanted to get married. I wanted to have a couple of more kids and just do a little bit of life, right? Not do the car thing anymore. Like, I was driving boring cars. Like, I straight up just got out of it. I said, you know what? I've been doing the car thing my whole life. Let's just fucking take a step back, chill out. And then 2018, I was like, God damn, I missed the track. I want to go back. And so I got back into it. The kids were bigger, and that's when I picked up the YouTube thing again. And I just continued on as GuelphRacing. And I wasn't sure how I wanted to go because I was doing a lot of import shit back in the day.
Yeah.
So I was doing some drifting. I was doing some time attack. I have time attack videos on there, and drifting videos and stuff like that, and mostly drag racing. So I kind of went back to CSCS and started doing stuff with them again. And then and then I just showed up at OSO one day. It was a front of the track list racing, fully prepped OSO stuff, and I started going to their events a little bit in 2018.
That's when they first got started, right? Wasn't it?
That's
Or-
when they went on TV. Was sometime in 2018.
Oh, okay.
I had no idea about them being on Street Outlaws stuff. I just went to Cayuga and filmed one of their events just because I wanted to film something in the front of the track.
Yeah.
And that's how I became friends with them. Got to know all those racers and all the guys that race OSO.
But it was front side.
It was frontside list racing, and they used to have shootouts that were also frontside.
Was it prepped?
Full prep.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Everything was prepped.
Oh.
There was
It
no
was
no
Ontario
preps.
Street Outlaws, but it was prepped front side.
It was like it was exactly how they did it on TV.
Okay.
They just adopted the format.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So it's 2018. I'm filming those guys, and then I made the decision. Excuse me. I made the decision that I'm just gonna stick with drag. I'm gonna forget all this drifting stuff, show and shine, time to time. You know, there's no more just drag racing. Focus only on drag racing. And in 2019, I linked up with Ian Hill because Ian Hill was coming up with a brand new drag series called Canada Heads Up. And the year before that, it was, what was it called?
I've heard it a million times. Like
it was
before Ian took it over. It was like S something, SSPA.
No,
SSP's the
not the OSCA, not the OSCA. After the
that's
OSCA, there was what's his name? The old former race director of CSCS was running it. I can't remember the name of it, guys. But I filmed one of their events, and it was rainy and it sucked, and you know, it was just because of bad weather. But I believe he is the director. The guy that was running that is the director at Grand Bend Motorplex, and he used to be the race director of CSCS way back in the day. And that's a whole other story. I know him from way back. But anyways, 2019, Ian Hill stepped up and was coming out with a brand new drag series called Canada Heads Up, and I had made the decision that I want to film drag racing events, like specifically, and get more into that event coverage, more of like an ESPN style, like TSN style event coverage. So Ian started advertising this new drag series, Canada Heads Up. It was like January or February of 2019, you know, like this upcoming season.
Yeah.
So I had I had emailed Ian. I'm like, hey, you know, I explained to him who I was and what I do, and he's like, hey, give me a call. So he shoots me his number. I call Ian Hill, introduce myself. I remember I was at the park with my kids, and he's like, hey, can you give me a call real quick? And I'm like, okay. So kids were playing on the playground, and I'm at the bench talking to Ian Hill, telling him who I am. And he's like, okay, you know, come out. And he's like, I've seen your channel before. Why don't you come out and you know, do your thing, whatever. Like, we would love to have media coverage, whatever. Right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like how I got linked up with Ian Hill. And so I just started filming his events in 2019, and we did the SmackDown, and the videos were cool, and you know, we were having a great time with the racers, and it was fun. It was a fun first season. And then in 2020, I continued on with that event coverage, whatever. But I was still GuelphRacing going into 2020, and I was like, you know what? I need to change this name. I need to rebrand.
Well, that's funny, as I'll chime in on that. I don't know if you remember, we went to do Test and Tune. You might remember this at TMP, and that was with my car. I think it was pretty much stock, maybe tuned at that time. And you were gonna film that. We ended up doing a Grand Bend event too that actually happened, but it rained. So I don't know if you remember, Rick Hanlon was with us. And then we were sitting down in the Tim Hortons there in Cayuga having some laughs. And I remember you saying, you're like, I gotta change the name of this channel. And I remember Rick and I are sitting there, and I'm going, you're nuts, man. I said, you can't change it. I'm like, it's GuelphRacing. It's got to be GuelphRacing. You know, it's been GuelphRacing since what
2001.
year? 2001, right? Yeah. Like you're out of your mind, right? But now when I look back, because even when we left, like I said to Rick, I said he's out of his mind if he changes that channel name. And then you changed it, and I was like, I guess it's over. There's no more GuelphRacing, right? And then now when I look back at that, I'm like, that was a fucking smart idea, like big time, because you were saying at the table too, you're like, you know, GuelphRacing, it's just, well, like, why Guelph? You know what I mean? Like, Guelph, such a small, you know, 100,000, I think Guelph's where we're from, right? 100,000 is the population, right? So, you know, how much reach where are you going to get with that name, right? So you need more of a generic name, is basically what you were saying, or more relative to.
Well, I kept getting asked. I was asked, people that didn't know Guelph as a city, they would ask me, what's a Guelph?
Yeah.
What does Guelph mean? And I'm like, oh, Guelph's the name of the city where I'm from. They're like, oh, okay, so it's like a car club, or what is this? And I'm like, well, yeah, it used to be a car club. So I got tired of explaining what GuelphRacing.
Oh yeah, which makes total sense.
I was thinking, okay, I need to rebrand this. How can I explain myself in a name? Okay, what do? I film heads-up drag racing. So how do I make a name that is how do I say I film heads-up drag racing? Like, that's what I'm about. I don't film drag racing. I film heads-up. It's heads-up. It's drag racing. How do I explain this? And I didn't want to use the numbers 1320, obviously, because that's very friggin' taken. Holy crap.
I know, you see it everywhere.
I didn't want to use the number 660, because 660 is used. I don't want to be a number, because everybody's got a friggin' number. Everybody's trying to leech off a 1320 video and all that stuff. And I didn't want to use the word Canada, because Americans don't want to watch Canada shit. No disrespect, but it does not get views, okay? Like, you have to be, and I don't want to be just in Canada, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to the States. I'm filming American stuff. I want to be more generic.
It's got to be generalized, like where you can go anywhere,
So I came up, I had one import guy, Ryan Maxwell, he asked me why I called it ProTreeVideos. He's like, why ProTreeVideos? Like, I really want to know. And I've known this guy for 20 years. Like, we used to race CSCS back in the day. And I'm like, okay, here's my explanation of why ProTreeVideos. Now, if you know what a pro tree is, then chances are you're a fan of drag racing.
Yeah.
It's pro tree.
Yeah.
If you don't know what a pro tree is, then chances are you're not going to like my videos anyways. You know, it's drag racing.
Yeah, true.
If you don't point. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't know what a pro tree is, you don't like drag racing, you're not going to like my shit. You're moving on, right? So, and same with 1320 videos. If you don't know what 1320 is, you're probably not a drag racing fan. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same type of, it's a niche. You know what I mean? So I felt that ProTreeVideos, you know, I film heads-up drag racing videos. I film it. So that's how I came up with that. And it took me forever to make that logo. I have like 20 different renders of that logo, and it looks the best. I don't know, I think it looks clean.
Yeah, it is. I like it.
I have so many dirtier versions of that, and they'll never see the light of day, so don't ask.
I was gonna say, can I see all the other renders?
They look terrible, buddy. I have animated graphics and everything.
Well, you said you were making them on Paint, right?
Yeah, no. Yeah, Microsoft Paint. Yeah, fuck. Yeah. I spent a lot of time in Photoshop coming up with that, and I spent a lot of time with the name just sitting there. And I'm like, okay, I made the name in early 2020. And I think I wrote out most of the season with it just sitting on my desk and me going, do I want to do this? Do I want to change the name? I've had GuelphRacing for GR for fucking, you know, since 2001.
2001, and that's...
So I waited until almost the end of the season, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna make the switch, because every day I wake up, you know, every day I sleep on this, it just sounds better and better. And then I changed it, and then the first person to message me was Alex Rochelo, and he was like, yo, I love this name. This name is awesome. I love the logo. It looks clean. It's generic. It could be American. It could be Canadian. It could be anything. Like, it's very, you know, that's perfect. He was the first guy to tell me that, and I'm like, all right, I feel good about this now. I got like...
That's why you like Alex so much.
No, he was just like he's like a reputable guy.
I don't know, he's good,
right? So I'm like,
I honestly didn't realize that he reached out to you back there on that. That's why it's cool that we're doing this.
Yeah, he was the first guy to reach out. He was like, yo, this is sick. Like, you got something you can put on a t-shirt, you got a brand, like, that's a good brand, you could sell that, like, it's perfect. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I feel good going into this now that I had somebody in the industry, like, back me on it. So, yeah, fuck. So that was the transition into... So that was
GuelphRacing. That was 2020. So we'll.
Oh, this guy.
Yeah, I know. We should have a camera facing out forward.
Oh man, there's some bad drivers out today, man.
So what we'll do is, so 2020 we'll stop for a second and go back, because we're talking about GuelphRacing there. So GuelphRacing started back in 2001, and you were still in high school then. Where'd you been just done?
I was in. I had just finished so I did a year of college. I did a year of metal machinist. It was like an 11-month course. So I had finished that, and I was working full time as a CNC machinist at the time. So I 19 years old. Was I 19 years old? Yeah, damn. I started BCom at 19. So I'm 19 years old, turning 20, whatever. Like, we were hanging out at coffee time, street racing every night.
Well, that's why I thought you were still in high school, but I forget we're a couple years.
I was fresh.
I'm a couple years younger than you, because in 2001,
you would.
I was in grade 11.
Yeah.
So 12, but I don't think I met you. It was probably 02, 03 then.
02, 03 is when. So 2003 is like we were doing GuelphRacing for the first couple of years. It was kind of like very small, like it was just like inner city, like
it was like coffee time, Centennial. A lot of people from the high school Centennial, right?
And then like 2003, we started with the big meets, and people started coming because So I had the street racing website for the first 2 years, where you could go on GuelphRacing.com, and it was me filming all these street racing videos in the country. We just go racing every night. And then in 2003, we started opening up to public meets. So we had these big meets every Sunday night at 7, hot summer nights, right?
Yeah. So then it must have been 02 then, because I got involved, or I met you when those videos, like the racing out by Schneider's and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, we kept doing that. So we just had these big open public meets, and then at the end of the meets, we would just grab people from the meets and go street racing, right?
Yep.
And it was pretty big. We had guys coming from like
people were coming from everywhere to racing. Guelph, Kitchener, Waterloo. Like Guelph was the
guys were coming down.
To
Cops
street
were
race.
all over us all the time. They hated us. They were pulling us over for fucking improper headlights, fucking cars too low, fucking tints, like anything they could find. They would just pull us over because they couldn't get my videos because I had a disclaimer. When you go on to GuelphRacing.com, there's a disclaimer, and back then cyber laws were different. And I researched the hell out of cyber laws. I'm like, how can I post illegal street racing and not get anybody arrested? And there was a way to do it, and I did it that way. And you passed through the disclaimer, and you got to the videos, and there was no legalities. Like nobody got busted for anything. This is way back when the internet was young.
Yeah.
So cyber law, most of it didn't exist. And there was some specific rules that you had to follow, and it was super easy to get away with illegal street racing on the internet.
Well, the funny thing, that's so old. I remember I had a Nokia phone, and the first time I ever got onto internet, I can't remember how much it cost. It cost me a ton of money. I remember I was at Eastside Morio's, and I opened it up, and I'm like, I'm gonna try this internet thing on my phone.
Yeah.
And the first site I went to was GuelphRacing.com to the message forums. Right?
Yeah.
And I remember it popping up, and it was brutal. It was janky, like it was barely working.
Yeah.
I think it cost me like $5 just to be on GuelphRacing's
phones,
and it was a total waste, right? But that that was the timeline of when this was all going on. Just put into perspective for the people that aren't.
GuelphRacing was one of the first web forums. Definitely one of the first web forums in Canada. So back when GuelphRacing existed in 2001, there was only GuelphRacing.com, there was TorontoRacing.ca, and TSR, Toronto Street Racing. And then Toronto Civic Club came later. There was only like 4 or 5.
What about Vital Motion?
Web forums. Vital Motion came later. They didn't show up until like 2005.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So like GuelphRacing was there from the beginning, and there was no Facebook, there was no YouTube, there was nothing. All you had back then were a handful of web forums, and GuelphRacing was one of the original ones. So nobody used their real name, everybody had handles and all that stuff, and we would go on there and we would basically set up street races or talk shit or whatever, right? Like it was so new that people were always on the forums, and they were always pressing refresh.
I was always refresh.
You know, like, a new post, go check it, right?
It was like Facebook. Pretty much it was like Facebook.
Yeah, it was one, and you had to sit at your computer and do it, right?
Yeah.
Like you couldn't
do it from your phone, right? So you had to be like, I gotta get home, get on GuelphRacing, see if anyone responded to my comment, right?
Exactly. Inside there's like
there was a lot of members too at that time. I remember there was, I don't know if you ever remember what the amount of members were by the time it kind of
we
fell down, but there was thousands.
It was a very active community.
Yeah.
And I mean, we rode that for a long time. We had weekly meets for up until like, I don't know, 2010. I can't remember when the last. No, it was 2011. I remember. 2011 was the last active year of GuelphRacing. I remember because I just wanted to get it to 10 years. If I can get a full decade, a full decade, I will have outlasted every other card club that's ever competed with me, ever, including Vital fucking Motion.
Yeah, because they fell apart too.
Fuck those guys.
Yeah, because I remember that because you were done. Like you wanted to move on, and I don't know if you remember, but you offered me GuelphRacing because I'm like, I want to keep things going here. But I remember you were like, man, I'll give it to you. You can take it over. But I was like, but that was yours. You know what I mean? Like,
true.
I'm like, I remember that was a thing because I started Guelph's Finest. Yeah. After that, if you remember that, because because you were like, take GuelphRacing. I'm like, no, I'm like, it just doesn't feel right. GuelphRacing, was yours. I'm like, if you're gonna shut her down, I'm gonna keep this going. And then I was, sitting at that desk again, trying to figure out a name for, for a group. So I went with Guelph's Finest, right? It was also. But Finest being like, a police officer was almost like chirping the cops, like, we're Guelph's Finest, right? You're not Guelph's Finest, but that was
a clever name.
Yeah, it was short lived though. That only happened for a couple of years because I was never involved to the capacity that you were with GuelphRacing. So once I started running my own shit and dealing with all the drama and
it's
all
so
the bullshit that came with that, and then the meets, like I would set up meets, and I'm very like set up a time meet, we'll go to Toronto, we'll go to this show, and you'd have your people that would show up on time and other people that would loaf to be like late, oh wait 15 minutes, this and that, or they wouldn't show, and I was just sick of it. I'm like, after a year or two, I said, this is nuts. I'm like, I'm not waiting for people, I'll do my own thing. Like, if I want to go to a car show, I'll go by myself as me, right? Like, and then the drama, right? And then you got Guelph's Finest, so basically you're Guelph's Finest, so someone's out doing something, he does something stupid or whatever, then it falls back on you, right? Kind of deal. So it was just, and I think, if I remember, I can't remember who I gave it to, but I'm pretty sure it was Fat and Fly Guy.
Oh, Andrew.
And was it, what was the other guy's name?
Hellfire guy, wasn't it?
No. The short Italian guy.
Short Italian?
Trying to remember his name.
Guy with the Hyundai?
Yeah.
Mark.
No,
not Mark.
No. Actually, you know what? Mark might have been, maybe there's three of them. There was Fat and Fly, Mark, Vickery, and the third guy, Pete Lombardo?
Oh,
Lombardo. That's it,
Lombardo,
I'm pretty sure it was those three that kind of took it over from there.
That guy was always jealous of shit. I was so nice to that guy all the time. Everybody else, or I don't want to say names, but everybody else made fun of that guy, made fun of his car. I was always super nice and including that guy and all this stuff. And he was always trying to one-up me and beat me and stuff like that. I'm like, buddy, I'm trying to make you one of the boys here, and you're just he's just a dick.
Yeah. No, he's never done me wrong, but he's got his ways. I know he's got his things, but I think him.
That's just local drama. Nobody cares.
No one cares about that shit.
It was back in our 20s.
But I think they rolled with it for a couple of years, man. I think 2, 3, 4 years after that, they kept rolling with it. I still got the banner. I still got that big Guelph's Finest banner that I think Barton actually made that for it because he got involved at that time too when you shut her down with the Guelph Finest. He was helping me with it. So we had the big Guelph Finest banner. I still got it at home, massive banner, which is pretty cool. But that was kind of it. And then we had met over the years all the different vehicles and winter beaters and all sorts of fun shit.
Oh, the winter beater videos.
Oh my god,
we had so many good winter beater videos.
Launching stuff off snowbanks and running into shit.
Some of that old GuelphRacing content is on the ProTreeVideos YouTube channel. Because fun fact, the ProTreeVideos YouTube channel is actually the old GuelphRacing YouTube channel.
Yeah, so all that stuff's on there.
I made that. So when was it? YouTube turned into YouTube in 2006, I believe. Late 2005, early 2006, YouTube was created, and Google took it over. If you go to a ProTreeVideos YouTube channel and you click the About section, you can see the date created, and I believe it's early 2006 when I made that channel, or early 2007. I can't remember. I think it's early 2007 I made that channel. And the reason I made the YouTube channel, you weren't getting paid back then. That was before the monetization. I was hosting all of my videos, all of my track racing, event coverage, all that stuff on a web server, which is costing me hundreds of dollars a month to host all these damn videos on a web server. Right?
Yeah.
And YouTube came out and they were like, hey, host your videos for free. And I was like, hell yeah. So I dumped everything onto YouTube and just called it the GuelphRacing, whatever, GuelphRacing YouTube. And just because it was free to host videos back then in the early, like, kids nowadays take this shit for granted. If you wanted to host a video on the internet, you had to buy a server, and you had to pay hundreds of dollars for that server, because the more space you had, the more it cost. And it was a lot of overhead to have a friggin' website. It cost a lot of money. It was expensive. Now you can just upload a video and there's no cost for it. You just put it on a social network, you put it on YouTube, you put it anywhere. It's free, right? And you actually make money off of it because you put ads on it, right? That was unheard of back then.
Before you had to pay.
It didn't exist. It didn't exist. It was not invented yet. So when YouTube was first invented, everybody used it because it was for free. Oh, thank God, I can host my video without paying for it. Right? So all of those old GuelphRacing videos are on the channel. Now, I did delete a bunch of like the heat ones and stupid ones and whatever, but there is still a complete history of GuelphRacing on the channel. So if you sort by oldest, if you watch my old videos, if you look in the description, those videos are actually older than when I uploaded them, because I just took everything I had and dumped it on YouTube. So
stuff that was on the servers.
So yeah, so if you see a video from 2007, look at the description. It might be from 2004 or 2002 or old.
Yeah.
Like, those are old ass videos with like before digital cameras. Like, we're talking like 8mm tapes, like tapes. You know what I mean?
Now from this, you might see that you might get a few views on some of those old videos pop up now. People are gonna be like, oh, what the hell?
I still get views on those old videos, and people make comments, and they're like, whoa, is it shot on a potato? What's up with the video quality? I'm like, brother,
dude, this is from
2002 had no video quality. HD did not exist, buddy. Like, this, you're lucky to get anything from back then.
Yeah, I've done that a couple times, gone on the channel and searched by the oldest video and watched a couple of the old videos.
And some of the old street racing stuff, like, I think there's a couple of compilations I left up there because they're not really, it's not bad. But I just left them up there because it shows progression. It shows where we came from, right? Like, we're an old channel. Like, people don't realize how old we are. Like, my channel is as old as 1320 video. Like, I remember subscribing to Kyle's channel when he had 10,000 subscribers.
Oh yeah,
and he was huge. That was huge. If he had 10,000 on YouTube, that was fucking huge.
Well, because I was watching his shit before he was on YouTube too, right? Because there was
the website, right?
What was the website? Wasn't it something else? Was he, or he was posting on something else?
He was posting in WebForms.
It was at WebForms or something. I know there was another name or something he was going by before he went to 1320 though. There was definitely.
But he was uploading at the same time I was using YouTube. Like, our channel, if you go to the about section of both of our channels, it's less than a year difference of our channel creation. And so he was huge at 10,000 subs. That was a big channel back then. I remember the biggest channel on YouTube back then was 4 million subscribers, and that was Ray William Johnson. He had the biggest channel, 4 million subs. Now it's like 400 million subs. Like, it's ridiculous now.
But into perspective, 10,000 subs at that time for Kyle was
huge,
massive,
But like, he was selling DVDs because YouTube, the monetization program didn't show up until like 2011, I want to say, 10, 11, 12, around there. And I instantly got accepted because I had so much content on my channel. I was super easy to get into it. Usually it was only the channels that got high number of views, but like, I had decent views. So I had low subscribers back then. I only had I think I had 5,000 subscribers. But that was enough to get me into the program. And now it's a lot different. You have to have watch time hours, and you have to have 1,000 subs, and there's a lot more restrictions now to get into the monetization program on YouTube. But back then it was brand new, so they're still trying to figure out how to sell ads on this thing, right? So I got into it relatively easily, just because I had all those years of videos that I had just dumped on the channel. So thank God I did that. And then these roads are so weird.
I know.
Driving through the States is something else, guys. They have different types of intersections here, and the lights are different. Like, you got to go on a flashing red. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
That's so weird.
Different drivers down here too, but
it's fucking weird.
yeah. But then I guess that kind of, and then I know with the GuelphRacing at that time, by the time you were getting out, I was helping you too with like meets and that sort of shit, and because I'd enjoyed doing that stuff.
The meets were so fun, man.
Moderator on the forum, I was all proud that I was a moderator, right? Like I got to Bandland. Remember all the Bandland things?
Bands, yeah.
Bandland, ban them. Let's go, right?
Yeah, being a
felt like a
web form
king.
moderator,
Oh,
that was a big deal.
That was the shit, right? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a moderator on GuelphRacing. Like, what do you do for a living? That's what I did for a living, right? Like, moderator on GuelphRacing.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, fuck, I send you to Bandland. Don't screw around. I want to talk shit. You're out.
Yeah. Make a burner account.
Oh yeah, yeah. So then I guess that kind of just fills that gap in, and then so yeah, I guess we were at 2020, right? Is when you switched to
you rebranded to ProTreeVideos.
You're started doing the Ian Hill stuff. You were doing the OSO stuff. They were doing front side at that time.
Yes, and 2019 is when OSO did their very first no prep, and nobody has ever done an official no prep up to this point. You like guys can talk on the internet all they want. Oh, we did street racing here, we did a shootout here, blah 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 blah. There's no fucking videos anywhere, so show me the evidence or STF. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this is the first sanctioned no prep race, advertised no prep race at a track. It was at the Grand Bend Motorplex Road Course where John Forbes has his legacy no prep. But Paul Norris started it, and Paul Norris joined up with the Windsor boys, Alex Rochelot, Mike Graham, 52 RPM guys. So Alex and all those guys with Paul Norris came together, and they created that event together. Basically, because we know Alex and all those guys are tight with Detroit Hood TV. You know, they have King of the Street experience. They have all this backside.
A lot of US
experience.
There, and
they basically taught Paul how to do this event. Mm-hmm. And they came together. Alex obviously was the flagger. Alex and Mike Graham and all those guys basically helped Paul, showed him the ropes. This is how we do the backsides. This is how it's done, blah, blah, blah. And it worked great. I mean, the car count was low because nobody knew what a fucking no prep was back then. Like, in Canada, and, you know, like, people knew what it was, but nobody actually had cars built for it because we didn't do that up here, right? So...
yeah, we always adopt a little bit later than the U.S.
Yeah, right. Well, you gotta start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So that's where we started, and I filmed that race, and that race is on the channel. And that I was not very good editor back then. I'm still like, I would say the first was like 2018, 2019, 2020. I was developing my editing skills. I didn't have very good camera gear. I didn't have very good experience like with Adobe Premiere. I was still learning how to edit. I was still getting comfortable with the camera. So they're pretty rough. Those edits are pretty rough. Like the racing was fine, but like you got to take the editing with a grain of salt. I was still finding my way, you know, like as
but you were documenting, you got it right. So no one else was doing it. So
I mean, people tell me they're good videos, but like when I look at my content today and I look at my content back in 2019, I'm like, ooh, fuck. Why did I do it like
I
that?
can imagine it's always like that because because when I started doing my channel, what 8, 9 months ago now, I can already tell a difference.
You can see the progression.
Oh
right?
yeah. I'm sure you're always gonna get better, right?
And that's normal.
So that was Grand Bend was where they did the first no prep backside stuff for Ontario, anyways, right?
And then I believe 2020 is when Paul linked up with TMP.
Yep.
And they discovered a magical venue with TMP, and it was great for first few years. You know, first 2 years I would say. 2020, 2021 was off the hook. The hottest ticket in town. 2022 was also good.
I'd never heard about it until you started doing it, right?
Yeah,
like
I was filming all of them. It was the hottest ticket in town. And, like, fans were coming from all corners of friggin' Southern Ontario just to watch these events. There was so many fans. There's still good, you know, car fans these days, but
it's really it's grown. Because I'm trying to think what year, because we still stayed in contact, but I remember you reached out to me. When was the Canada Cash Days?
Oh, 2020.
Was that 2020? Okay, so that was
Cash Days,
that was the end of 2020. So you messaged me And it was funny because that's the problem with Canada too. Like, street racing's been dead here. It happens, but it's not like in the US, but it's been dead for a long time.
Yeah.
And it was killed where we are in Guelph. Like, there was a specific cop, Dan Mosey, that came in. And a lot of people got out of the scene because this guy, I get along with Dan now. It's all good. And I get it. He was doing his job by the book kind of deal. But man, he wiped out everyone in Guelph. Like, if you had a modified car, like I was getting tormented left, right, and center. That guy would just pop out of nowhere. He was like, he just come out of the bush, and there he was, pulling me in, you know, old MTO, blah 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 thing. So he ruined the street racing scene.
Did I ever tell you about the deal that I made with Dan Mosey, the cop?
No.
I'll tell you about that deal. So remember those Midnight Rival guys?
Oh, that was Bo.
Was that Bo?
Yeah.
No way. That was Bo?
Yeah.
So
Bo and my buddy Brandon Rouse and all those guys.
So
oh fuck, here we go. This is gonna get thick.
So listen. So I used to film street racing, and I used to put it on GuelphRacing website, whatever.
Yeah.
After I think it was 2005, I made the switch to track racing.
Yeah.
And the guys their cars were getting too expensive. They didn't really want to risk it on the street anymore. They're getting into class racing, CSCS. They were just kind of like, I don't really want to risk this on the street. They were building trailer queens, basically, right? So we started racing at the track most of the time. So most of my content was just track. Like, I was going to TMP, I was going to Grand Bend, all that stuff. St. Thomas Dragway. I was filming all of the class racing. So I decided to make the switch. I took all the street racing and I just moved it off the site, and I just put all the events. And then I came out with these new, I think it was 2005, I came out with this new website, had all the class racing on it, NCRA, CSCS, event coverage. I was doing like photography and stuff like that with it. And I did shoot photos. For those who don't know, I used to shoot photos. And so GuelphRacing was a big event coverage website, also a car club. It still had web forms and stuff like that, but all of the media on it was legit track racing.
Mm-hmm.
So Dan Mosey comes in. So this has been going on for a couple of months now. Dan Mosey comes into coffee time, and he's looking for me. You know, we hang out there every night. So he's looking for me, and we sit down at the table, and I remember the entire GuelphRacing crew was just standing at the window outside. Nobody was inside coffee time. It was just me and Dan Mosey, and Ray was behind the counter, you know, like, and everybody's just looking in the window, and they're like, why does the big bad cop of Guelph want to talk to the owner of GuelphRacing, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was a big deal. It was like a mafia fucking deal or some shit. It was so weird, but it was actually pretty hilarious. So he sits down and he's like, I noticed you took the street stuff off the website. You guys are doing all the track stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I made the switch, whatever. And I just explained it to him. You know, this is what we're doing now. This is what we're doing with our cars. You know, we're pretty legit right now.
Yeah.
And he's like, I really appreciate you, or he's like, we really appreciate you keeping that off the internet. We know what you guys are up to, because we were still street racing. We didn't stop street racing. We were still street racing, but I just wasn't putting it online because there were articles in the fucking paper about GuelphRacing and how Guelph had a street racing problem.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And, you know, I have newspaper clippings. It was hilarious to me at the time. And he's like, we really appreciate you keeping the street racing off of the internet and keeping it clean. We really like what you're doing, and I just want you to know that, you know, if you take care of things the way you're taking care of it, then we'll take care of you guys. And he's like, do you know these? And then he said, do you know these Midnight Rivals guys? And I'm like, I don't remember exactly what I said, but it was along the lines of, fuck those guys. Like, I don't know those fucking guys. Fuck
yeah, that was
right?
Bo. It was Bo and
I had no
Brandon.
idea. I honestly had no idea who it was.
Yeah,
right?
He still got stickers too at the
That's
shop.
funny. I had no idea who it was. So basically, he was saying, he's like, okay, well, those guys are fair game. Like, I just want you to know that we're gonna look after you guys, you and your boys. So basically,
just to chime in there, Bo is my crew guy, the guy that lines me up all the time.
Bo
so
is
that's
the
Bo.
crew guy.
Yeah. So continue on.
But yeah, so basically, if you had a GuelphRacing sticker on your car, you weren't getting pulled over in Guelph. You can get pulled over in any other city, but if you were in Guelph and you had a GuelphRacing sticker on your car, they were specifically going to leave you alone. And that deal carried on the rest of the time I owned GuelphRacing.
So is that why Dan stopped bugging me?
I don't know.
I don't know. He asked me for questions on a few things.
I think you guys had a different relationship, to be honest. He knew you.
Yeah, I think it got to the point where he was like, oh, he's growing up. As you get old, you stop doing as much bullshit, right? You stop, burning out at every intersection. And
you grow up a little bit eventually, right?
Neutral drops everywhere. And power shifting everywhere, right? So I think that was kind of where that went with that. But that's what killed street racing in our area. So when you messaged me about doing this street race down in the Windsor area,
the cash days,
I kind of laughed and I'm like, bro, come on, like that shit doesn't happen in Canada, right? Like he's like, no, dude, these guys are legit, right? And I remember that was the first time I heard 52 RPM, because you're like, yo, these guys are legit, 52 RPM, they're Windsor area kind of deal, blah blah blah. I'm like, all right, so I'm like, I'll give it a shot. I'm like, I'll trust you. I'm like, that's a lot of driving to go down for some shit that's not going to pop off, right? And I watch all the street racing in the U.S. online, so that's kind of my expectation. It's like, my mind, like, you don't bring this expectation, like, this is going to be it. I'm not going to be showing up to some bullshit down, 3-4 hours away. But then I searched up 52 RPM, and I'm looking, like, oh, it's kind of legit. And I actually talked to a couple people locally and dropped the 52 RPM. They were like, oh, yeah, those guys are legit. And I'm like, interesting. So I'm like, I'll see how it goes. So then I remember the Saturday night I was driving down to meet. I think I met. I drove down there because you drove down. Yeah, we drove down separate. So and then you picked up Mike Pereira.
Oh, Mike Pereira. Yeah. So he was my GoPro guy.
Yeah, and then we went from there, and then that was an eye opener for me. I'm like, holy shit! I'm like, there's street racing in Canada still, right? Like
that was a fun day. We got a good group of cars. The pot was a few grand. It was decent.
And that's when I met Mike Graham, Alex. Graham and Alex, they were big.
Yeah, that's when you met those guys.
And like we got down there, and it was like I was watching like a 1320 video or like a 660 street. The chip draw. There was I can't remember how many people there was. I know it got smaller as the night went on because
we kept getting run off by cops.
But I was like, holy shit, this is legit. And people were talking shit, and I was like, wow, like this is sick. Like street racing's alive, right? We're good. I'm like, here we go, right?
That's one of my favorite videos on the channel. That video is still on the channel right now. If you go to the ProTreeVideos channel, on the front page of the channel, there's like a no prep section there. I try and keep that video on the top of that section because I like that cash day was the very first cash days I ever filmed, like actually street racing cash days, the very first one in Canada. That's another first for Canada. Like that's a very first documented cash day specific video.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
It's totally legit, like the 52 RPM boys really put together some content that night, and I was there and I captured it the best I could. And here's a fun fact about that video. I had no idea how to film a cash days and not get everybody busted by the cops. So I actually messaged Kyle Loftus from 1320 Video on Facebook Messenger because I had no idea what I needed to do, and the only person who I could think of was Kyle. Like he's the guy filming all the cash days in the States. And I'm like, I wonder if Kyle will talk to me. It's like, because he's a big guy, he owns the biggest channel in the world, right? And I'm like, I know for sure Kyle knows how to do this, so I'm not just gonna ask anyone. I'm gonna ask like the
guy that does it. Yeah.
So I messaged Kyle. I had never talked to Kyle before, and I had messaged Kyle on Facebook for the first time while I'm editing this video, and I said, hey, sorry to bother you. My name is Ben. Whatever. This is what I'm doing. This is my channel. I just need a little bit of help here because I'm editing a street racing video and I don't want to get everybody arrested. And I need to know what kind of legalities do I need to watch out for when I'm editing this video. And I could look at it actually. You know what? Hold on a sec, guys. Just so I'm not talking shit.
You can always zip it forward so when you've got it up.
Here, since I'm dropping names, let me bring up this actual. All right. So this is the conversation with me and Kyle Loftus from October 30th, 2020, when I was editing this video. and I explained to him what I was doing. And he said, I don't know Canadian law, but anything identifying time, location, and people's identity, those three things, can potentially be used as evidence in many areas. Typically, they need all three. Okay.
So they need time.
So they need time, when it happened, they need location, where it happened, and they need who it is. If the cops have all those three things, then they can nail you. All right. So if there is a report for street racing, they know when and where, and if they can pinpoint who it is. Right? Yeah. So I was blurring out license plates. I was blurring out faces of people actually racing, and I was blurring out street signs because I had a lot of street signs in there, and I didn't even think about the damn street signs. I was filming friggin' street signs everywhere. And I'm like, oh, they were on the corner of here and here. I'm like, oh, I got to blur that sign out. And he also said, he's like, nothing is perfect when you're involved in something illegal.
Yeah.
But the future is, but the further you separate yourself from the organization. Okay, so he also told me, like,
I remember you saying that too.
He told me don't get involved in organizing it.
Yeah.
He's like,
you're just documenting it. That's what it was, wasn't it?
Yeah. He told me legally you're documenting traffic on the side of the road. It's no different than somebody filming a train going by. Okay,
that's
so
good. Yeah.
He's like, as long as you're not involved in the actual setup of the race or anything to do with it,
or the racing,
you know what I mean? You're totally hands off, and you just show up wherever it is and just start videotaping stuff.
Yeah.
He's like, you're clean and clear. Straight from Kyle Loftus, 1320 video. Shout out Kyle, thank you for that information, because I edited it exactly that way, and I didn't hear a peep. Nothing. Nobody got harassed. Nobody got questioned. No cops. Nothing. It was perfectly fine. And that channel's been on that video's been on the channel for 3 years. And I got to give Kyle credit. Like, he took the time out of his day to answer some random guy up in Canada. I'm sure he knows who I was, because you're not in this industry and you don't know who everybody is. I know who all the smaller channels are. I know who all the bigger channels are. Everybody knows everybody.
Usually you'd have a good idea. With the thing with Canada is you're the only one in Canada that documents. I haven't found anything else that documents drag racing, whether that's front side, no prep, street racing.
Yeah, there's only a hand. You can count the number of people that film up here on your hand, right?
Yeah, so I don't. It might be all the stuff happening other places in Canada, but no one's documenting it, right? So so we only know where we're at, which is.
And shout out, you know what? Shout out to 1320 video. Like, not only did Kyle help me that day and help us make that cool video, but those 1320 video guys were super nice to us at the World Cup. Like, I was talking to him on the line at the burnout box area. We got invited up to the media room, and we walk in there, and it's just all the 1320 video guys, and Fred and all those guys are up there. And we were like shaking hands with all those guys.
That was surreal.
We were talking about Canada. We were talking about Nebraska. Like, you just sat down in one of those big chairs, made yourself at home. And
there's one guy. His parents are from Winnipeg, so he goes to Winnipeg. Yeah. You know, every Christmas time, he's got family in Winnipeg. So that was, that was cool. That was kind of surreal. Yeah. It was unfortunate Kyle wasn't there, I guess. So they were saying he had other.
But all the other
stuff to deal with, but Fred was there, the photographers, and the other guys were there, so and they were all chill, so that was pretty cool and surreal being up in that room with those guys.
Yeah, that was nice.
I guess where were we at now? So boom, the street racing, and then from there, so that's when I got so that's where we're going with that. So I helped you film that, so that was sweet. And then you were telling me no prep, so then I had no idea what no prep was at that time. I know you had started filming some of it, but I don't think I was actively really watching it back then, right?
Well, it's new to everybody, right?
Yeah, it was like I remember, honestly, you know what? I wasn't watching it because every time you'd post a damn video, it would be this camouflaged Jeep Trackhawk. And it was like another win for the camo, and I'm like, what is this camo? Like, I remember watching a video, I'm like, oh, that thing's pretty quick, but it seemed like that truck was winning every race. So I just got sick of it. I'm like, I don't even want to see this camo hawk anymore. This damn rap Jeep. I'm sick of it. I'm gonna puke if I see it again, because it just keeps winning, and I'm like, it just goes A to B. It doesn't. I'm like, well, I'm over this. But I know in the spring, you were like, oh, come on out, and you know, if you want to help film or whatever and check it out.
Right.
So then I got out there with you and started filming, and I was like, fuck, I'm this no prep stuff. And I was backside at Toronto Motorsport Park in Cayuga, Ontario Street Outlaws. So yeah, I started helping you film with that, with the no prep stuff backside, and I was like, this is sweet. The way I explained it to people was this no prep stuff, this Ontario Street Outlaw stuff is like street racing, but at the track.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's like legal street
simulated
racing.
Street racing.
Yeah. Because you've got, it's around the back, there's minimal traction, right? So there's guys spinning, they're all over the place, right? It's like you're racing on the street, and then you've got people lined up down the walls, they're having a good time, they're cheering, they're betting, like, yeah. I'm like, this is nuts. So, and then as we were, I was helping you film that, I'm telling people, I'm posting up about it, I'm getting people to come out, and the people are coming out and they're going, holy shit, this is nuts. This is like, and I'm like, yeah, I'm like, you know, you go to test and tune, whatever, it's cool to watch, or a drag event, right? Kind of meh, it's not, but the hype for the no prep stuff, right? I think that's what got me hooked into it, like hard, right? Like, and then we were filming that. We were doing, there's John Forbes as well, his events.
Pro Street,
which he usually does at St. Thomas, and then the Grand Bend too, the backside there.
Yeah, he kind of took over the Grand Bend venue because OSO they have a deal with TMP.
The TMP to be hosting it there. Mm-hmm. But then that was, what year would that have been? So 2000 or 2011, 2021 was the Cash Days, right?
2020 was the Cash Days. 2021 was the year you were helping me film Canada Heads Up.
2021, yeah. So I was helping with the Canada Heads Up stuff, which is cool. I preferred more the.
You needed to taste it.
I needed to taste it, but I was I liked it, but I'm like I gotta be filming no prep. Like I want to be at no preps. I don't want to be.
You went down that road. That was good for you.
And then it was. So that was 2021, and then 2022.
That's when you started racing.
Yeah. So I'm like. And then there was the stick shift class, and I had my Mustang, right? And I've done some test and tune with it, kind of deal, right?
You started racing at the end of the year and won.
Yeah, well, that was my goal, was after we were filming it or whatever, and I was taking over the winter, and then I messaged you, and I'm like, you know what? I'm like, I'm gonna get the car ready and compete in this no prep stuff, right? Like I'm like, I gotta get out there, I gotta do this. So yeah, then I started building up the car, and that's when. That's COVID hit. There was a bunch of stuff, and I was doing the supercharger on the car, so it wasn't until the end of the season. I think, no, it was near the end of the season. I got it out, and the suspension wasn't done and stuff. I went out and it blew the tire off, and I'm like, this is nuts. Like I've spent all this money. I'm like, I'm done for this year. And I think I was just driving it on the street, and then I think
you came out later. There was like an extra event that you won.
No, that was the following year, late 2020.
No, it was 2022.
Oh, I can't remember, getting all mixed up now. Anyways, that was kind of how I got into the no prep world and got hooked into this.
Yeah, that was your door into it.
Yeah. But it's funny how much it's changed since then too, right? Like it's a big swing, right? Like back to that comment I made about this camouflage Trackhawk winning every time, right? Like, and that was that was small tire, right? And like back then,
small tire was a lot slower class back then, though. No discredit to the Trackhawk. Trackhawk.
Oh, I know, and that's what we've talked about, right? Like my comment last year, I think was, remember when high 9 second
the caliber
Trackhawk was beating everyone up. Right?
The caliber of cars we have now is night and day what we had back in 2020. You know what I mean? Like, guys have picked up the sport up here in Canada and have built awesome cars, competitive cars, and some of these guys are competing in the States
too. That's the thing, right?
Yeah, they're going all the way in the States. Like, Canada has come a long way. Now, we don't have a whole lot of cars. You could probably count the number of competitive cars on both hands, you know, that we have here, like, that can compete in the States and win at major events in the States. That is amazing. I mean, we basically started no prepping here in 2019. We're not even 5 years into it. And
I don't even know when they started in the
We're not even
US.
5 years into it, and like the Canadians are making a splash in the States. And you know what? I'm proud of our guys. I'm proud of our progression, how fast a lot of these teams have picked up. All the teams, like everybody has really figured it out. And a lot of the front side guys have come to the backside, and they're finding success out there. You know, like
puppy kicking.
And I love seeing guys. Well, I love seeing guys like Michael from PSP. You know, those are front side guys for life. And then Michael decides to pick up no prepping, and look how competitive he is.
Yeah,
he's doing
right.
awesome.
Well, as I said, like he went right to the top first year out, right?
And some of these guys are realizing that, you know, like if you choose, you kind of have to make a choice. You can't do front side and back side. You're one or the other. You know what I mean? Like you can't keep changing the car over. And I think Wadge discovered that, and he's like, you know what? I'm just going to keep it no prep.
That's why he got.
And now he's getting way faster on the no prep.
But he was street before, wasn't he? That's what I understood. Like
he originally started as
like he was. So like
he was one of the original OSO guys. Yeah.
Oh, so he went. Okay, yeah. So I didn't realize he was. Yeah, I guess that's true because he did race in that.
He went to the TV show.
Oh, okay, yeah, true.
So he's. I mean, that car is you know, it's done very well here in the States, and he's very competitive, and obviously he's won a ton of shit up here. But you know, he made his decision. You know, like staying backside, set up the car for backside, built for backside, and that's where he has his most success.
Anyone that kind of tries to play both sides, it looks like they just end up struggling everywhere.
You can't do it. You can't do both sides. Like Sean Devine is a perfect example of that. I love Sean. He's my favorite racer of all the racers. I've known Sean since I started GuelphRacing. Like he was racing imports back in the day. I love the guy.
He was one of the first guys you introduced me to when I came to film the front side stuff with you.
Yeah,
we went to his trailer, and that was badass too, because you're like, yo, this guy does like
This guy does everything.
It does like the what's it called in the US,
stuff.
like all the drag and drive stuff.
Does
like
the drag and drive stuff?
I remember I was like, holy shit, you're like, okay, this guy, he had the camper and the big deal with the trailer. So going to the camper and you're like, I'm like, this guy's badass, right? Like this guy travels everywhere, and like great dude, like him and Wayne, beauties.
Wayne's funny, yeah.
Oh yeah, both great guys. Love those guys.
But he races no prep small tire with that drag and drive car, but he also does Canada Heads Up 550 index class. Mm-hmm. And setting up a car for prep and no prep, the tuning battles he goes through and the car setups, and he's just constantly having to change the setup to run both. I understand he wants to race everything, but like it's too much. You know what I mean?
You almost have to have a car for it, or you have to have a car for no prep.
You have to have a no prep car. You have to have a front side car. They have a bracket car that does really well, and Jennifer, his daughter, drives that car. But I mean, it's just a bracket car, and it's set up to run bracket, and it's consistent. It wins all the time. Like they're very good with that car, but that's because that car really does that. It just does prep. And he did try a little bit of no prep with it back in the day. I remember he used to bring it out, but then he switched it over to, you know, that's Jennifer's car. That's her bracket car. But this Nova he has is so badass, and it's very competitive, and he does very well front side, and he's very competitive backside as well. But like, it's just not as consistent because the car has to be one or the other. You know, you gotta, if it's a no prep car, it's got to stay a no prep car. You got to change the suspension. You got to change all that stuff just for no prep. You know, like the front of the track is just a different animal. You just can't do both.
And I've talked to some front side guys too, and they're like, oh, they really want to get out and try the no prep, but they're like, they don't want to make those changes to their car because they'll be pulling weight out, right? Because they might have weight added to meet the class at front side, and they're like, I got to pull that weight out, but then they're gonna have to mess around with their suspension. And I've seen it. Like, look at
it's tough.
That year. Last year, the end of last year when I came out to the last two OSO events and won the stick shift class. One was against that Jeff Gilbert guy, right? Like, that guy's got some badass cars. He's got the Gas Monkey car.
Yes.
And then I was racing his stick shift.
He index races that.
Yeah, stick shift Camaro. Like, that's a race car, man. Like, but that thing, he was racing front side with it. So we went to the back side, and, you know, we had a bit of testing on minimal prep, right? To work on a shitty surface, right? And it worked in our benefit. But that car would eat my car up at that time, right? On the track, on the front side. But the back side's a different story, right?
Yeah, he's not going anywhere like that.
Yeah, because he didn't have any testing on backside, right?
Yeah.
And that plays a big part, and that's why you gotta have two totally different setups.
You can't build a race car for everything, it has to be a niche. You're no prep or you're prep. You front, you back.
Seems to be.
You know, and even front side no prep is a different beast than backside no prep. You know, backside is a completely different setup. It's a tuning game. You know, I mean, it's a tuning game of pulling out power where there's wheel speed and all this and that. And it's
and setting up
crazy.
suspension. Like I remember one thing. It's funny because Corley's like struggle bus hard, like since getting that S10. But I'll tell you, to date, he gave me the best advice, and the thing that worked the best for me when I was building that car. Because I remember I messaged him like, I got to figure out how I can manage like power management with my car. Yeah. Just before I was getting into no prep, I messaged Mike because I know he knew what he was doing. He was winning, right? So you go to the winners, you start asking him questions, right? Yeah. And Mike's like, dude, you got like, what's your suspension? And I think I had springs, and it was still all the factory struts and all that. He's like, dude, he's like, suspension is key in no prep. And literally to this day, when anyone asks me, I'm like, you gotta get the suspension dialed in. Yeah. And it's funny because poor Mike, but he makes so many changes, right? Sometimes you're your own worst enemy, right?
Yeah, true.
Right? And that's one thing I'm pretty good at. You know, my car could probably go faster, but then I'm always afraid to change things because when it's working, right? When it's working, and I'm like, it's tough. But Mike's at a totally different other caliber than I am, right? Like my car in comparison to, you know, these guys like Corley and Trevor and Mike Graham, all these guys, like they're on a different level than what.
Well, I mean, and they're also racing the track. You know what I mean? They're adapting to the surface. They're not worried about the guy next to them who's in the next lane. Like obviously, it's in your mind. Okay, do I have a big tune-up or a small tune-up? But I mean, Jason White said it best with Copper Top Nova. He's like, I just come here and I race the track. You know, like, because he's done very well. He's won tons of small tires.
Race the track, race your own race. That's
like, race the track. Don't worry about, like, just go as fast as you can on this surface because, you know, is it a cold night? Is it a hot night? You know, like, is there rubber down? Is there not much rubber down? Is it November? Is it August? You know what I mean? Like, he's like, he races the track to the best of his ability. And that's why he's had so much success with that.
Yeah, and Jason, he's a beauty, and he's grassroots, that guy, too. He's been drag racing forever, right? Yeah, he's not... and that's the thing. You get some guys that come out, and you got groups of guys paying for cars and stuff, and sometimes it's frustrating and hard to compete with that. But it just goes to show.
It's real easy to crash not your car than it is to crash your own car.
Well, look at Jason White at the last OSO event, but he got taken out by a bumper.
Yeah,
right.
Close race.
And that's a race team. ProTech's pretty much a race team, right? I would say they got enough guys that are working on those cars.
Let's be honest on a human level here. I am more likely to send it in somebody else's car. It's like, hey man, can I race your car? If I crash it, it's not on me. It's all good. Okay, I'm gonna send that.
Yeah, I wonder how that works. That'd be a good question.
But if I own the car, and if I have $100,000 into this car, and I start to get swirly, I'm probably gonna let up. I'm probably gonna give the guy away.
Oh yeah.
So let's be honest. We're human here. Human nature is, if it's not yours and you don't have to pay for it, your foot's gonna stay on the floor. So Frank's a great driver, and he drove that car there. But I mean,
that'd be a good question though. Like, how does that work? Is there any liability for the driver on that?
Why would there be, right? Like, he's a hired gun, you know? Like, and it's like, if I get into a race car and they say, okay, if you crash it, you bought it, I'm not gonna drive it. I'm like, forget this. You can race your own car. You know what I mean? Like,
it's funny you mention it because I never even thought of that. Because if you're just driving the car, then it
takes the pressure off.
You might.
You're trying not.
Which could probably be. It could be a good thing in some cases, right? It could be a bad thing, but it could also be a good thing, right? Where the guy that owns the car would probably lift with the guy that doesn't own it. It's like, I'm staying in this bitch, right? And then wins it, right?
And if there's teams out there that have cars with multiple owners. And, you know, some guy owns the engine, some guy owns the chassis, some guy owns this, blah, blah, blah. They all have money in the car, and then whatever they win at the end of the day, they split it. And there's lots of teams out there that do that. And because it's, you know, makes financial sense for them, that's how they want to do it. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, that's how a lot of race teams work. But it's a lot easier.
It's hard to keep up with that, right? It's hard to compete with that. I think everything progresses, everything gets faster, right? And then to this day, I know everyone fought to get the big pots, and that's still a thing. Everyone wants bigger pots, and I can remember leading up to that. And I think Mike Corley was one of the big pushes for Canada, like Ontario, to get bigger pots. And then once the bigger pots came, I noticed that the faster cars came together. A lot more drama came. Drama and faster cars.
Whenever there's money, there's drama.
Yeah. So that's changed things big time, right? Like,
but I'll give you my take on this type of no preps with money on top. So if you're a promoter and you're having a race, it's a business. Okay, you got to make money. Now, how do you make money? You put on a show. Okay, you have to pay for your show. What's your show? The race cars. The race cars are your show. The spectators want to go see the cars. They want to see these fastest cars. They want to see the guys that they watch on YouTube. They want to see all the, the popular shit.
Yep.
They want to see Frank. They want to see fucking everybody. They want to see,
Sinister,
RX-7. They want to see Sherm. They want to see everybody.
Billy. They want to see SRC.
They want to see the big names. Okay, how do you pay for your show? How do you get these guys here? You put money on top of the pot, okay? $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, whatever. Sponsor money, okay? You put the sponsor money on top of the pot. That's gonna get fans in the gates. And if you're charging $30 a head, that's a lot of money. You're gonna make that money back real quick, especially if it's sponsored money that you put on top. Mm-hmm. Even if it's your own personal money, maybe you take it from your previous track rental, whatever you want to do. Okay, fine. So you pay for your show. If you're not putting money on top, you don't have a show. Okay, we've progressed past the level of grassroots shootouts. Okay, like a $500 payout isn't going to bring all these people that you see on YouTube.
It costs a lot of money, right?
Well,
it costs a lot of money to race.
Most of these race teams are spending $1,000 to $1,200 just to get to the race and race fuel, cost of towing, all that stuff, right? Like,
I know what my cost is to show up somewhere, right? And I'm not even to the caliber of some of these guys,
They're not going to make money, but they're not going to go to lose money too. And that's another thing, guys. This is another thing. And this is something that I have to look at as a channel as well. And I don't want anybody to think I'm hating on any other promoters or any other races, but there's literally a backside no prep every weekend from April until the end of October.
Well, it's oversaturated.
There's so many no preps within 6 hours of driving. 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. I can drive every single weekend to a different no prep, and all of those no preps will have at least 10 grand pots, okay? All of the cars are going to go to those races, okay? So as a content creator, I'm going to take a look at it and say, okay, well, we got Street Racing Channel here, we got the Mac TV guys, we got, the RX-7, like the Shepherd Racing guys. Like, I'm going to go where the content is, okay? So if I don't show up to a race that I normally go to because I want to go to, let's say, Dragway 42, for example, and film a 40-car field as opposed to a 5-car field, well, why did that 5-car field only get 5 cars? Well, there's no money on top. Nobody wanted to go there, right? Like, you have to pay for your show. Yeah. And if you're not willing to pay for your show, to pay for your racers, you look greedy. I'm sorry, you look greedy, okay? Yeah. Everybody can do the math. Everybody can figure out. We're not stupid. Pay your racers, guys. Pay for your show, okay? If you don't want to pay for your show is not going to be good. You're going to get 7 cars.
For some reason, it seems to be more of a challenge to pull money together. I don't know if it's just greediness or what it is, but in Canada, it seems like it's hard to pull big pots in. Like, you see, like, that Chuck Be Humble guy. I feel like that guy's like pulling off like these like $10,000 races every weekend.
He pulls like, races out of his ass.
Yeah, I know.
40, 50 car fucking small tire lineups.
I know. Like when John's event last one got rained out there because the grass was wet. Wet grass, right? Fuck, it was like the week before.
That was the dumbest
Chuck
shit.
just posts up like, yeah, boom, $10,000 race next week. It's like, holy crap. So it's hard now, especially if you want to pull. That's the thing, is Canada will never be the US. They never have been, never will be, right? Racing's always gonna be bigger in the US. There's no doubt about it, right? No, there are guys that, if you do have a bigger pod, they'll come over. We've seen them come over. A big part of that though is you gotta give credit to Alex,
these credit guys. I don't think
Mike Corley,
Mike Corley. Yeah, shout out to everybody.
Yeah,
in the
Trevor too. He's got a big influence on these guys coming over here, right?
Influencers, promoters, listen up. Influencers, okay? I'm not talking about myself, okay? I'm just the YouTuber, okay? Influencers are guys like Alex Rushel, okay? I'm going to use Alex as an example.
Don't let it get to your head, Alex. Your head's already big enough.
Listen, I've been into the States myself, my body in person. I've heard racers, all the racers who we begged to come up to Canada to race, have said to my face, they will go up for Alex. So many of them have said, we love Alex, we'll go up, we'll go wherever you say. You want us to go there? No problem. Like that big race at the Legacy No Prep, we had a ton of Americans. All those guys, they said, okay, we'll go up for you, Alex. There was other races they could have gone to that had bigger payouts.
Yeah.
But they decided, you know what? Alex is our friend. Let's make a trip up to Canada. Why not? You know what I mean? It's less money because it's Canadian money.
But at the same time, they enjoy it too because they get to race different cars. It's no different than us too.
And that's
the
what
US.
they said.
That's another. There is some benefits for them to come up to get to race different cars, and they also they have more of an advantage too. I would say
the Americans have told me we like racing different people.
Yeah.
It's a different ball. Different game. It's not the same people every weekend. They enjoy it.
No different than us. Like I like racing different people too, and that's kind of my. I'm waiting for them to drop the rules for the local stuff because I'd like to still be involved with local stuff, but at the same time, you know, when there's like with the stick shift class here, my car's competitive here, not really as competitive in the US, but you know, if there's more of a car count, you know, I'd rather go, especially with the channel.
Content too.
I'd rather go and if there's gonna be 25 cars, and if I only go 2-3 rounds,
you can't race the same five cars in every video.
Yeah,
you gotta go where there's new cars and new people to talk to, right? So like,
and make more connections. That's my goal, right?
If you're gonna have to choose a Milan over a Toronto event, then so be it. Like, you need different content. You need new people. You know, it becomes watered down, and that's what I've discovered. Like, I've filmed every OSO up to the last couple of events, and I'm telling you guys, my OSO engagement, like the engagement, how should I say this so it doesn't sound bad? The numbers are way down on OSO because everybody's getting tired of it. It's the same cars. Every time I go there, there's nobody new to interview. Like, there's no...
Yeah, the same.
What's your setup? You gave us the setup over again.
It's 10, 15 times the past 2 years.
It's the same big box, it's the same LS, like it's... And I'm at a point with the channel where, you know, it's really thriving. The channel is really going places right now, and I need the fresh content. I need new stuff.
And it draws more people in, right? When you go and you're
I still support the Canadian things. I still support Canadian events, and I will continue to film Canadian events and showcase Canadian drag racing. But I have to like, I have to mix in more.
You have to be strategic too, right? Because
you know what I mean? Like, I can't be 90% Canadian anymore. Maybe I got to go 50-50. You know what I mean? Like, you know, Canadian and American content. It's keeping it fresh is really hard on YouTube. You got to be fresh. You got to keep going. You know what I mean? If you just film the same thing every single video, people just get tired of it.
Yeah.
They stop watching.
Well, that's the thing. It's no different than anything. There's no comfort and growth, right? You can't just get comfortable with the same shit, and it's not going to grow if you just do the same thing over and over again. Yeah.
Like,
it gets old, and that's what I was saying to someone this weekend too at Milan that was local, right? It's like, you know, last 2 OSOs of 2022, I guess. You know, I got the trophy, and then I think won 4 of them this year.
Yeah,
I think it was 4, and then the Wally, right? Like, and now it's like. But we'll see, right? I'm curious to see what rules and stuff come out. I really like the daily driver class that they run at Milan. I know I got a stick shift. Yeah, like
Droidhead TV has perfected this recipe, and they perfected it for over the years. And the way they run it, the daily driver class, the small tire class, the hard tire class, the way they run those 3 specific classes are perfect.
And what I see when I go to an OSO race, and we've got 8 classes, I see a bunch of these classes that have small numbers, that a lot of these cars can fit into daily driver.
So that's
the thing. I'm like, you know, the Ryan Murphy, the Jimmy like Jimmy, you know, Jimmy? Jimmy. Yeah. Jimmy. Who runs an hard tire. You know, that's a daily driver car. My car's a daily driver car. All these guys I'm racing in the stick shift class, aside from Braden from Boss Racing, they're all street cars. They're all, in my opinion, daily drivers, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Right? And I personally think, as much as I love stick shift racing, I know myself, I'm not going to take my cars to the level. I'm saying that now anyways, who knows what could happen, but I want to keep it street, right? So I'd rather race street cars. Like, and if you're afraid, that's the thing, you get the people that say, oh, you know, the rules are different in Canada and the US. But I'm telling you, if you're afraid to drive your car, you know, 40 miles, it ain't a street car. I don't care what you say. And Canada rules, like, you're not a street car then. They
gotta keep the classes limited, because I will tell you, every promoter that I've ever worked with has this complex about car count. More car count, more car count, more car count. How do I get more car count? More classes, more classes. That is wrong. It is proven to be wrong formula. You don't need more classes. You need less classes. The less classes you have, people will build for it. People will build for it. You can't have 50 classes with 4 cars in them. You know what I mean? Like, you can't make a class for everybody. You can't spend money on trophies for classes.
That's ridiculous when a class has 2 people. That, like, NA class.
Stop.
I know, like, then I know Braden, Boss Racing, they were a big push for that NA class, but they had a lot of guys in the bracket side that were like, oh yeah, we're in, we'll do it, we'll do it.
Stop listening to the internet. Stop listening to bracket racers. They will not show up. They will not come.
Oh, but they were talking. I remember NA, like, it sounded like it was going to be big, but it was a flop. Hard tire was a flop. NA was a flop. Tailgate had a decent car count, but that was a flop. You got, you know,
they got to pay attention to the country below us. Not below us, but underneath us geographically. They've tested all of this shit. They know what works and what doesn't work, okay? You're not copying them. You're going with a proven formula here, okay, guys?
It'd be interesting, for a promoter up here just to take Milan's rules for their PYOP.
Yes.
And it's close. Like, look at the turnout that comes. Like, they're, depending where you're coming from. For us, how long is the drive? 3 hours? 3.5, 4 hours, I think?
4 hours.
4 hours. You know, 4-hour drive. But hey, you know, if you make your rules the same as those rules, you know, those guys, they only get that PYOP once a month. Hey, if they want to race twice that month, you know, if you're gonna run that in Grand Bend,
and if you have guys like Alex,
2-3 hours
your event, he is an influence on these guys. He will bring them up. He will get them.
But that's old news anyway.
That's a whole different thing.
I think that flagging thing is over. So
the flagging, like, look, like I don't want to. Okay, everybody's talking about the flagging thing right now. Like, I like Geet. I have nothing against Geet. We're cool. It could be Mike Vanny flagging the races. Okay, it doesn't matter. I don't care who flags the races. The only problem I have with that whole situation is that, remember when I talked earlier in this podcast about how Alex and Mike Graham and all those 52 guys came together with Paul to create no prep drag racing
for Ontario?
They created it together. They brought this here. They came together. Okay, without that team of guys, we wouldn't have what we have today. And I think it's wrong just to throw somebody to the side. Just say, I'm done with it. I think that's wrong. And I have a big problem with that. And I've told Paul, I've told him this, and he understands it. And you know what? I wish OSO all the success. I'm not talking shit about OSO. Alex is my good friend.
Yep.
And I don't like what Paul did to him. And I'm just going to leave that there. That's all it is. I have no hate for OSO, no hate for the track, especially. I love TMP. It's my home track. I'm still going to come around, guys. I'm not ditching anybody. I'm just saying I will be going where the content is next year. And, you know, no discredit towards any other flagger. We could have any flaggers. You know what I mean? It's just that particular situation rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, how could you throw away a guy? Just throw him away. That helped give you what you have today. He gave you, you know what I mean? Like, you all work together to do it. I'm not saying Paul didn't do anything. They all work together. But
part of the issue too, like in the defense of both sides, I'll be the devil's advocate here. They're probably both acting like girls too, right? Paul's probably not messaging Alex probably not messaging Paul, and they're probably just being little girls about it too at the same time, right? So sometimes it's just maybe like, if you got an issue, just fucking talk about it, hash it out, right? But whatever, that's not. You know what? What is with that. We do what we do, and carry on. So, well, I guess we'll move on from the no prep stuff. So
listen. And if I don't show up to TMP for a no prep race in 2024, it's not because I don't hate. It's not because I hate OSO or TMP. I love those guys. All right, I love everybody. It's because I've chosen to go where content is. All right, I need to do what's best for the channel at this point. I'm at a turning point. Like, I've had a breakout year. I've had more views this year than I've ever had before. I've been making crazy connections. Like,
you just want to grow. You want to grow.
I have to grow.
Grow the channel, grow as a person, meet new connections. I guess we can just roll that into this weekend, right?
Exactly.
Because this weekend's a big thing. So we'll spin.
World fucking Cup.
Yeah, World Cup. So we'll spin back to that. We got into the drive down. Yes. How shitty that was, and. So we got there, I guess, so where we got kind of sidetracked was on how you got accepted to be media at World Cup. So I thought you had actually applied for a few years, but you clarified that on the drive up. So this year was the first year you actually applied. So you quickly tell the story on how you got
so
hooked
okay
up.
So back in March, so if you want to be official media at the World Cup, there's an application process you have to go to, and it opens in March of every year. So and basically what happens is they open the application on their website, you fill it out, and then it says right there, we will let you know by September or whatever it is, 20 something, September 20th, let's say, that you either accepted or denied, because they only have a limited number of spaces that they can put. You can only fill the burnout box with so many people, all right? It fills up. And so they have to have a certain number of photographers, a certain number of videographers. So when you apply, you have to fill out the form and you have to give it all your socials, and it's very specific. Like, they want to link to your social, they want to know how many followers you have, they want to know about your view counts, they want to know about how much clout you got, basically, right?
Yeah.
And of course they would, because it's the biggest race in the world.
They want the most reach, right? Whoever's got the most reach, yeah.
You got to be somebody. You can't just be Joe Blow.
Yeah.
And I knew this, for several years. That's why I never applied, because I never thought I was good enough. I didn't think I was there yet. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I just didn't think I was there yet.
Yep.
And this year I've been having a hell of a good year with all the class racing, all the no preps, all the American content. The views are way up, and my TikTok flew over 100K. Like, it's fucking, I'm blowing. Like, this is my best year ever. And I was feeling confident. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go for it. So I fill out the application back in March, and whatever. So the summer goes by. I'm making videos. YouTube's hitting great. Views are up. Mylands, everything's it's going great. And so I'm in Quebec for the second Grudge Wars event, and the deadline for World Cup applications is on the Monday after the event. And so I get to the event, and I remember it was the Friday. I walked into the burnout box with my camera, and Nick Burnett, one of the owners of Naperville Dragway, and they also have the race car that races at World Cup. They won their class last year, and they're going again this year. So Nick Burnett and his brother Carl are there. Carl goes up to the tower, and Nick's doing some track prep on the starting line. And Nick comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, you're back, alright!" Because I'm going to film the Grudge Wars and then SSPA on the Sunday. So I'm there filming all weekend. And Nick comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, did you get your media for World Cup?" And I'm like, "Well, actually, find out Monday. That's the deadline, whether we find out we get in or not." And Nick was like, "Oh, they didn't say anything to you before that?" And I'm like, "No, I don't think they do. Like, I don't really know how this process works. It's my first time ever applying." And Nick goes, "Come here." So I go over there, and he pulls out his phone, and he takes a selfie with me and him. And I'm standing there with my camera on my shoulder, as I always have it there. He takes a selfie with us, and he's like, "Watch this." And then he messages Chris Miller, who's one of the owners of the World Cup, and he handles the media guys as well. He's like, and it's a personal text message. Like, that's his personal phone number. They're just having a text conversation, like they talk all the time, right? Well, they're track owners, right? So they're both probably talking about track shit. But he sends them the picture of me and Nick, and he's like, "Hey, I need my friend to come as media. Can you help us out?" And like, I'm trying to sound French right now. And he's just like throwing me some credit here, and I'm like, "Oh wow!" And then Chris Miller immediately replies to him. He's like, "He'll get an email Monday. Don't worry." And then I'm thinking, was that a yes, or was that a no, or what? Yeah. And then Monday, actually it wasn't Monday. It was like Sunday evening. I was still in Quebec, and the email rolls in with our application, or with our acceptance, saying that you and me have passes, right? Because they needed our names. Yeah.
So how did that work? Did you say you needed to, or did they just automatically give to? Or?
When you apply, you have to give the names of your crew.
Oh.
So I put your name, because you're the first guy I thought of. Yeah. Like, oh, I'm bringing Pegs, right? Yeah. And then there was a couple other spaces, so I tried to get Alex in as well, but he only gave me 2 passes, and he sent me messages. He's like, "This is your first World Cup. these are all the rules of the road here. This is where you can be. This is where you can't be. This is how we do things. We can't fly your drone. We can't have scooters. We can't have this and that. Right? He was giving me the full rundown.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, we'll see how you do. This
it's like a try. It's like a
trial, right? Like, we don't know you. You don't know us. So let's see how you do.
Which is fair, right?
Content. That's fair. I absolutely fine with that.
More than fair. Gave the opportunity, right?
And I feel like this is gonna go really well. Like, the content turned out really good, and the videos are the content will speak for itself when it hits the channel.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's gonna be. I think we're gonna be.
Oh, for sure.
In higher numbers next year.
It was interesting. So there's 3 levels. There's 1, 2, and 3. So we got level 1, yes, which gave us, like, we weren't allowed on the track. We were just on the other side of the barrier.
So level 1 lets you go right up to the wall,
all
the way up to like the 330.
Oh, was it 330?
It's
okay.
Almost, maybe not 330. Maybe like the 200 mark.
Yeah.
All right. So
we had that.
We could go there, and
then level 2 could go on could be on
level
that
2 could
side
be
where
inside the burnout box
and our section,
and level 3 could go on
all
the
big
way,
end, all the way to the big end,
outside the track, but on the big end. Yeah.
So I know the one thing so we got there the first morning, and got set up, and the plan was you were gonna film. You had a spot that you thought was gonna be good to film from, so you went up there, and then you were like getting the burnout box. So I started filming in the burnout box, and it was quick. Oh shit, we gotta get turned here. I'll get it.
Oh, we're good.
So I know right away I could tell, and it wasn't as busy the first day we were filming, and I could tell, I'm like, this is gonna be a bit of a challenge, because you're fighting with not physically fighting, but you got the photographers and videographers that are in front of you and the crews. I'm like, this is gonna be difficult. I was like, this is gonna make for some hard content.
But
so
luckily I'm tall, and I'm able to see over. Most of the photographers were kind of short or sitting down, so I was able to see.
Yeah,
I had a perfect line of sight.
And you found a good spot, which everyone will see on the video, kind of where you.
Well, I changed spots on halfway through the day on Friday. I changed spots into the burnout box, and I found a really cool space because there was this dead zone.
Don't share it.
I'm not going to share it.
Like I should be able to tell on the video anyway.
I found a dead zone where people in the burnout box were not allowed to go, but outside the burnout box there was. So I kind of I don't know. I kind of pushed everybody out of this fucking section.
Yeah, it was a good spot because you weren't blocked by the level 2.
We took over that space,
and then that was us. That was the space, and it was it
was a good view. We got awesome burnout box footage of the entire event from that space. So definitely one of the better spots.
But that was So there was eliminations when we showed up for the first day of filming, which was Friday, right? Yeah, Friday.
Qualifying.
Qualifying. Yeah. So qualifying on Friday, and it was busy, but Saturday definitely was nuts, and then Sunday
sold out.
Was even
we were at capacity,
even crazier. But no, that was a sweet opportunity to actually get to film and experience that race right on the ground level like that.
Yeah.
That I've never been to, and I made that comment to you. I said, is there another drag race in North America that would have the hype as this event? I know you mentioned another one, but I'd also seen online that there's another big outlet that mentioned that this one apparently that we were just at is the biggest one that they.
I mean, okay, so import versus domestic is big in both import and domestic worlds, right? So like World Cup final is the biggest import event hands down. Is it the biggest domestic event? I don't know. I think Lights Out, it might be a good contender for that. Lights Out.
I guess you're going to go to that, right? So I
haven't decided yet. We'll see where Life is when that happens, because it's like I think it's in February
or something.
We'll see. But I mean, there are some pretty big frontside events,
that was wild. That was wild. Like, like the hype. Like it reminded me of the hype I first got when I started getting to the no preps, and people were chanting and yelling. And like, oh my god, it was electric. And then they had MCs, right? So anytime there was anytime there was. During the multiple oil downs, it was funny because I remember.
But the crowd kept going.
Yeah, the crowd kept going. The MC, there was an MC. They're going, they're cheering, they're doing this, they're doing that.
Listen guys. If you ever go to the World Cup, I know you guys are watching the live streams and it's boring because there's so many oil downs. But when you are there, it's different. Oil downs, you're still having a party. Yeah. The crowd's partying, everybody's still going. It does not stop when there's an oil down. Like, it is so exciting. Like, you have to go to a World Cup to even comprehend what I'm talking about right now.
It's definitely well worth the trip. I think regardless of where you're coming from, maybe if you had to fly in from the other side of the
it's worth it.
The other side of the country, it's unreal. And then even to go onto that, like with the oil cleanups and wrecks and stuff, like they've got that down to a science. Like it would be there'd be a massive oil down. And I would say like 15 minutes. Within 15 minutes, they'd be back racing.
Yeah, they were really quick on getting that.
Oh, that was just
track clean.
Unreal. Like I was saying to Ben yesterday, I said, now when I go to events and there's an oil down, any events that we go to, and I gotta wait, 2-3 hours before racing again, I'm gonna be like so angry. Be like, why can't they do it
I mean, they got 30 people working on the track at the same time. Of course, it's gonna get done in 10-15 minutes. You know what I mean? Like,
it's just crazy.
If you go to TMP, there's only 3 guys. You know what I mean?
They don't have the equipment that.
That's the thing. They got 3 tractors. They got 5 blowers. They got a Zamboni. They got all this stuff. And then they got like 10 more guys doing doing it by hand, right? Like they know what they're up against when they run those events. So they have enough staff to cater all those oil downs.
Down to a science.
But honestly, the oil downs for me helped me.
Yeah, it gave you a break.
It gave me an opportunity to go to the staging lanes, film B-roll, talk to some of the racers, do some interviews. Like the oil downs was my opportunity to leave the track. Yeah. So I didn't miss coverage. I was able to take a piss and like maybe go talk to that guy about his last pass, or like go just shoot some general B-roll for the video that I'm going to put out. And you know what? For me, it worked out perfect. Just the way they ran the event. Now the eliminations, like everybody was sending it to the moon. There was a lot of oil downs if you were watching live stream, but it did eventually get going, and there was some.
It would have been nice. It would have been nicer if there was a little bit less of downtime.
Sure, of course, absolutely. Nobody wants to see an oil down.
And it's too bad because a lot of people, like the stands thinned out by the end of the night because they didn't finish the last pass till probably 11:30.
We didn't get out of there till midnight.
We didn't leave till midnight, so that's what I'm thinking. It's probably 11:30 the last pairs went down. But the stands were thinning out, so that's unfortunate for the fans that spend that money to go there and don't get to actually.
I remember looking at when you were talking to Cletus McFarland. I was looking at my clock and it said 12:01, and I was like, "Oh my God, it's actually midnight." I made a joke earlier in the day. Oh, we're not going to get there until midnight.
Yeah, it was legit because the qualifying they were shutting down like 9:30.
Yeah.
So that's why I was worried about eliminations. I'm like, are they going to get this done? Right?
Yeah, they weren't gonna. I mean, they have $200,000 to get it, so they were gonna get it done either way.
So that was another big part of this was meeting the connections, right?
I dropped Cletus's name just now. I guess we got to talk about that. Eh?
Yeah, so that was interesting. So we show up there, and then now you see, everyone gets starstruck, I guess, when you're watching this YouTuber for
I was 7,
8 years. No, it's kind of funny because I mentioned to you, I said, are we going to interview Garrett, right? I think that was on it must have been Saturday. Yeah, it was Saturday night because we seen him Friday. We never went up and talked to him. Actually, I talked to George.
You talked to George.
I talked to George Friday night. Yeah, Ellis George Friday night. He was in the staging lanes with the Fox body. What do they call that car?
McFlurry.
Yeah, McFlurry.
Yeah, James was out there.
James and him were there, so I went and talked to them briefly. And then it was Saturday. Yeah, Saturday. And I mentioned to you, I'm like, are we going to interview Cletus? And you're like,
I was not really playing it by ear.
Yeah, you're like,
You go by Cletus's camp, there's like 100 people surrounding him, right? And like,
it's hard.
You gotta find your opportunity.
You gotta find your opportunity because I found that.
Which we did on.
So I roll into that. So then Saturday, it was Saturday. Yeah, Saturday for sure. Ben was filming, I was filming the burnout stuff, and I think there was oil down or something. And I knew he was in the staging lanes, and I'm like, you know what? I'm like, I gotta do this. So I just went for it. So funny enough, he was pulling the flags, or just putting the flags on the car, and he was just about to actually walk around in the driver's seat. And he just was chatting with someone quickly, and just started, and he was, I just put my hand out and kind of just not grabbed him, but like, hey, Garrett, right?
Yeah.
Like I didn't want to call him Cletus because like that's the character, you know, call him by his name. So Garrett, right? And he was cool as shit, right? He's like, oh, what's up, dude? And I'm like, hey, listen, Chris from ProTreeVideos. Like, I'm like, how do I introduce? That's the thing, is how do you bring up or start an interview or talk to someone? You got to have like some.
I mean, you had a media pass on you too.
Like some kind of like I need a reason, right?
You were some fan. Right?
But I'd also brought Canadian maple syrup, so I kind of got that idea from Quarterly and whatnot. Like he's brought Limpy and those guys all like they all want the Canadian maple syrup. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna grab some Canadian maple syrup and try to get this over to. My goal was to get.
So you had a bunch of these jars like this big, and they were shaped like maple leaves.
Yeah, maple leaves, and they were from maple syrup out of Elmira, I think they were out of.
Yeah, like a local
place,
yeah.
So they were nice little, the maple leaf and real cool little,
nice looking
cool bottles, right? So I grabbed a bunch of those, and my goal was actually to get some to the Cletus crew and to Lund Racing. So yeah, I grabbed Cletus and I said, hey man, just say, yeah, I'm Chris from ProTreeVideos, whatever. He's like, oh cool dude, man. I'm like, yeah, I'm down from Canada. And he was just about to go up. He was in Leroy. Yeah. And I'm like, listen, I brought you, I told George the night before about the maple syrup, right? But he didn't seem as interested. But
George is a weird guy.
Yeah, he was kind of, it was weird. He was like standing by himself too. He wasn't the character that
he's different.
But you know what? Even Garrett's not the same as he is on
Garrett's
camera.
really polite.
He's polite. He's well mannered. Like he's just like
super nice.
Yeah, it's an act that these guys put on, most of them anyways, right? So anyways, I told him like, oh listen, I brought some Canadian maple syrup for you guys, you know, and is it cool if I drop it by the trailer tomorrow or your camp, right? He's like, oh yeah, man, that'd be awesome. And I'm like, yeah, I gotta grab a picture. I'm like, I gotta get a picture, right? Yeah. Like no one's gonna believe that I actually.
I posted the picture on Instagram, so probably most of the people have seen it.
But I'm like, I get a selfie, and I didn't want to be that guy either, right? Like I sometimes feel weird, but I'm like, I gotta lock this down. I gotta let it know. So he's like, oh yeah, so we got a cool picture together, which is awesome because then at least I'll have that memory from meeting Cletus. So yeah, the night went on there, so it was the next morning. I think as soon as we got in, that was eliminations day. So then Sunday morning we walked right up to the trailer, and they were actually just starting to film, and it was freaking. They had just
filmed their intro of the day.
Yeah, they were filming the intro, and they're pulling the cars out, and I'm like, I remember sitting there because I know you wanted to get over to the Quebec guys to get the GoPro set up and everything, and I'm like,
oh, we had time.
It's a busy day, and I'm like, oh shit, like I'm like,
I'm
like I gotta get it. I don't want to leave without giving this maple syrup, so. Yeah, it worked out good. He pulled out, what was it, Leroy first, I think, and then
he pulled out Mullet, Leroy,
and he gets out, and I was like, I gotta get it, Garrett, right? So it's all on camera, so Ben filmed it all, which was pretty cool. But like he was pumped. So then I was pulling him out of the bag, right? And it's like, and I know because I tried.
Ty came over too. Right?
I told him, I said, get Ty, right? Like because you can't carry all these, right? Because I know that because when I was in the store getting them, I was putting them in my pocket. Right? You can't carry all these, right? So I'm like, get Ty over here. So Ty came over. He's like, oh, right on, Canadian maple syrup. So, and Cletus even said, he's like, good timing, man. Like, we just put pancakes on.
Yeah, so they're actually making pancakes.
They're making pancakes.
This guy shows up with a bunch of maple syrup.
Couldn't have been a better time. So we get them that, and then to continue on with that too was later on in the day, they're coming up into the staging lanes, and Ty was in the staging lanes. And,
so we're standing next to the wall in front of the burnout box, right in front of the lane that they're in. They were in our lane most of the night. And so Ty kept walking up by us. And every time he would come up, and he would notice Chris, like maple syrup guy, right? So like we would just start talking and shooting the shit, waiting for the round to start.
And then he let us know, I guess they had gone through 2 bottles that morning.
They said they drank 2 bottles.
Yeah, he's like, nothing better than Canadian maple syrup. So that was pretty cool. Yeah. And that Ty guy, he's real cool. Like Ty, really nice. Ty is the guy he is on the channel.
He's the same, but Ty's not on camera and off camera.
Ty's not. Ty's not a character. Ty's Ty. Like
he's a real guy.
He's good shit. And it was funny. I think it was after. Was it after? Yeah, it was after that pass. I keep forgetting the name of the guy that does all the electrical stuff for them. Always forget his name.
Oh, the wiring guy.
Yeah, always forget his name.
Sam?
Oh man, him and George get in the little car. We're standing right there and we're cheering, and Ty comes over, and shake hands with Ty. I'm like, right on, boom. And they're going to take off, and Sam's coming up trying to get in. I'm like, yo, stop the car. I'm like, Sam, man. He almost pulls into the other car. They're all excited, fucking.
And he's like, oh, I forgot Sam. I'm so excited.
Oh, fuck. That was
a
funny
moment, yeah.
And then then I shot the shit, or quick touch base with Garrett there as we were leaving. He's like, oh yeah, he's like, the maple syrup was good. So
yeah. That's what I was hinting at before, like when I said I was checking the time. Like we were walking through the burnout, or not the burnout, we were walking through the staging lanes, and Leroy and the Cletus guys were going to take their winning circle photos, and
get their money.
Garrett was there, and we just walked by, and Garrett thanked Pegeloz for maple syrup and said it was good and all that stuff. And it was like, it was nice. Like, those guys, at the end of the day, they're just YouTubers like us.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
And like, I could imagine what they deal with all weekend. Like that fucking camp was covered.
It was crazy
all weekend. There's many people. It's just, they just stand there for hours and watch them.
They're just regular dudes like us.
Yeah, but that's the cool thing, is that they're so just down to earth, right?
Oh, yeah,
like I shook hands with Garrett like twice, right? Like, and Ty, like all like
they're very approachable. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They're content creators just like us. They know.
And they're no more guys, right? Like. And then Lund Racing, that was the other one.
I've been to Lund Racing.
Yeah, so Lund tunes my car, right? So they've been tuning my car for the last couple of years. And Alex Flores from Lund, I've been following him for years, almost probably as long as I've been following Cletus, like back when he was with VMP. And that's why I got tuned by VMP originally, was because Alex was with them. And so yeah, Alex always had a couple people around him every time they're in the staging lane. So I wasn't able to actually connect with him and John Lund's senior and junior until Sunday. So I linked up with them, and I talked to them for probably 30, 40, maybe 45 minutes. So
yeah.
Which was cool, because they had seen my name, and I share some of the YouTube content on the Lund Racing
their Facebook group
page and stuff. And then right away they were like, oh yeah. And funny with Alex, back when I was boosting the car, I wanted to make 700 wheel, and some guys were getting away with it and some guys weren't. And I remember I made a comment on Alex's channel, because he does a lot of live streams, a YDBT, YOLO douchebag, or whatever is what he goes by. He's a character, but he does like 3-4 live streams a week. The guy's a beauty. He's funny. He's we got some similar, kind of humor stuff that
yeah.
I can relate to. But yeah, he's good shit. So, and they had actually seen my post about the Wally and whatnot, because I posted it up. So funny enough, actually, when I walk up, I'm talking to senior, junior, and Alex, and they're like, oh yeah, and I'm starting to open the bag before I even tell them I got maple syrup, right? So he's like, oh yeah, you just won that Wally up in Canada. Yeah. And I'm opening the bag. He goes, oh, did you bring it with you? Oh my gosh. He thought I was pulling the Wally. He thought I was pulling the Wally out of the bag or something. I'm like, no, I got maple syrup for you guys. And they were pumped. He's like, oh shit. He's like, can you eat maple syrup? That's awesome. So it was cool to talk to them and make that connection, because I've tagged them in tons of stuff over the years, and they've never really engaged with it much, but they get so much. Like Junior said to me, he goes, it's hard until we like meet someone, right? And now that they've met me, and Junior's like, oh yeah, like, because they got approved stuff that gets put on their page, and he approved a couple of the videos I put up, and he was kind of like, I didn't really, but he's like, now that I know you, he goes, oh yeah, he goes, throw up anything you need on there to support the channel. And
well, you made an impression on him, right? So.
Oh yeah, and then he said, like, we started talking about kind of what I'm doing with the car and possible future goals, and they're willing to help the program, right? They're like, they want me to start, I haven't been data logging, right? So they want me to start data logging. I can send that over, and they can start tweaking some more things, and they can start really helping with the program. And then we talked about, different avenues that I could go down, because a lot of guys go turbo, right? Which power management for no prep. So that might be something down the road I might want to lean into. And a big thing with that is I've always been in the impression that I need to put the Holley Dominator in, spend $4,000 or $5,000, change the wiring harness for the car and all that sort of shit. So it was cool to talk with them about that. And Junior was telling me, like, no, you just get an AMS 2000, I think it's called, and then I can do all the boost management and all that sort of stuff. And because they won the event there with Grey Goose, right? So they're running, was it 790s? or 690s?
I can't remember.
No, 690. Sorry, not 790.
I saw so many
690s. Yeah.
man.
So there's 690. They got a 684, I think it was their fastest pass,
Wow.
and that's got the 3-link, which they come with. It's a 3-link in that car. It's got a 6R80 in it, right? It's Coyote. It's I'm trying to remember what else. Like it's not factory ECM, right? So that was the big thing with factory ECM, because I honestly don't want to get away from the fact factory ECM. I want to continue on with Lund. So it's cool to know that I can continue on with them. AMS 2000 if I went, with turbos, the boost management, and they're willing to help with the program. So that was sweet. Like that was,
That's a cool connection you made there, right?
Oh, huge, because that's the thing, and I get it with those guys. They tune so many cars. There's so many people tag them in this, that, and that. They can't keep track of who's who, right? But when you actually, meet face to face and kind of make that connection, and they know what I'm doing, right? And they thought it was cool. Stick shift, no prep, right? Like they're front truck guys, but they're familiar with the no prep, but they weren't really, with the stick shift stuff and that. And being in Canada as well, it's kind of, I think it's cool for them too that there's guys out there running their product, and
it extends their reach, right?
Yeah,
because you're only going to bring them more customers.
Oh yeah, which I have. Well, anytime anyone messages me, I'm like Lund Racing when it comes to the Coyote platform. But it really scared me because it took me time to get onto Lund, for reasons I won't get deep into. But like I don't want to leave Lund. Like these guys are setting records. These guys are winning World Cups, right, with factory ECM. So there's no reason why I need a Holly Dominator or LCD screen or a Haltech or whatever, right?
That's rich people shit.
So yeah, that was cool. So making the connections, meeting all those, the Lund Racing guys, the Cletus camp, all that stuff.
1320 guys.
1320 guys, yeah.
Sweet.
Sitting in there, putting my feet up on the desk.
Oh, that was okay. Like that was a cool moment for me though. Like
I know that was big for you this weekend.
We got invited to the media room. There's only one group in the media room, and it's a locked room. It's locked. You got to get buzzed in, and it's just.
It was Fred that opened the door for us.
Fred opened the door for us. It was all the 1320 video guys in there, and they were all super nice. Like, hey, what's up? Come on in, whatever. And we sat down, shot the shit for a bit, talked. Yeah, like that was just cool. Like they were just. They knew who I was, but like we were formally introduced, and it was just a great connection to have. Canada meets USA, right? Like it was awesome for me. I felt really, I don't know, I was pretty excited when I left.
Oh, I don't know, that was
I was like,
that was surreal.
So cool.
Sit back in the chair and shoot the shit with those guys, because those guys are on a big level. You can't deny. What do they got? 3 million followers.
Well, what they do is they film and they take photos, and then they upload all of their memory cards to a cloud. They have it on all the laptops were lined up, and they were loading all the memory cards to the cloud. And what happens is their editors back home, wherever they are, Nebraska, I don't know where they are, they take all the footage, they edited it, and that's how they're able to do daily videos. So they don't actually have to edit at the track. They just throw all that footage on the cloud, and their editors back home are already editing.
Oh yeah, it's an operation.
And they have it streamlined really nicely. And I remember Fred talking about like, did you get footage of this guy? Did you footage of that guy? And they were like, it was like a time crunch. They were trying to get the footage in by a certain time so that their editors could have what they needed for the next day's video. And it was great, quite the procedure to see. I was very impressed. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, and I guess you can only do so much with. you need, and that's I said too. Basically, like ideally, if you wanted to cover all the qualifying, all the eliminations, you would probably want to have at least six people on hand, right? You basically have to run shifts.
At least, taking shifts, and it was quite the operation with the guy. But that's why they're number one channel. They got the big budget. They got the staff.
Oh yeah, they got
everything they need, right?
The channel makes the money to fund that stuff and to do those things, right? But that comes in time. There was a point, I'm sure, where it wasn't, right?
I was just honored to be there with them, and I was just honored to be accepted. You know what I mean? Like, everybody, all the media guys were super nice. I made a lot of contacts with other media guys. A lot of Instagrammers were out there, some TikTokers, other YouTubers were there. YouTubers that I watched and I didn't realize who they were until after the fact. I'm like, hey, you're
that Xavier guy? Was it Xavier? What was his name?
Xavier, yeah.
He's good shit.
Xavier's super nice guy.
Beauty, yeah.
And he knows everybody.
Yeah, he knows everyone.
I had made a contact with him before I went to World Cup, and then when I linked up with him is when I realized this dude knows everybody.
Oh yeah,
everybody knows Xavier, and he was introducing me to all these people left, right, and center. So I made a lot of good.
Yeah, it's cool to make all those connections and
good connections.
See all those people you watch on YouTube. See all those cars that you watch on YouTube, or you see all over the U.S. So that was a beauty. I appreciate you for.
So much fun,
for inviting me along for that journey.
So glad you came in. Like your help was big time. Like doing all the GoPro. There's so much roadkill in the United States. I've never seen so much roadkill in my life.
Seen so many deer.
Oh my god. Yeah, no, I appreciate you helping me out, man. You were wrangling my GoPros. You were taking that extra footage. Like without your help, man, like the content wouldn't be as good.
Yeah, I'm more than happy, man. That experience and all that.
It was so good.
All those connections I got to make and. Got to hand deliver my maple syrup to Garrett, right?
Guys know you now, right?
Yeah, I can watch them on TV now and be like, oh yeah, like I know.
They legit.
First name basis.
Them, no, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. You'll see it in the video.
They ate my syrup, right? So, no, I think that. I guess that'll probably wrap this one up. Oh, actually, there were some other questions, but I don't want to get into too much boring stuff. But there was one question. I was asked to drop on by surprise. What do you think of your father-in-law? Mike Barton. Yeah.
What do I think of? Mike's a great guy. He's a great guy.
I'm not even editing this. This is straight. Like this is straight.
Oh, Michael.
Oh yeah, he sent me a message. He said secretly drop on Ben, ask him what he thinks of his father-in-law. I'm like, Mike. I might have to edit this.
No, I love Mike.
I know you do. No, I know Mike's good shit. I know Mike for probably as long as you've known Mike.
He's a great. You know what? He's a great father-in-law. He's a great. I don't know, grandpa-in-law. What do you call it? But like, he's good with the kids. He loves the kids. He's a great.
No, I thought it was funny. He messaged me. I'm like, I'm definitely gonna drop that on the video. So
that's funny.
I knew it'd be all good anyway. So I thought that was funny, but.
Mike's good people.
Yeah, so I guess we'll wrap it up. I don't know how long we've been on, but it's probably been a couple hours.
It's been a minute, man.
Oh shit, so appreciate you doing it, and we'll carry on with our 7 hours and 20 minutes. And
that's all it is.
If you're not subscribed to ProTreeVideos, make sure you subscribe to ProTreeVideos. If you're not subscribed to my channel, subscribe to my channel, and maybe we'll do this again. So yeah, peace.
All right, guys.